Welcome back to another edition of the Fantasy Sports and Gaming Spotlight, our FSGA podcast. We got a treat for you today for all the fantasy baseball people in the audience. We've just walked out of our senior circuit fantasy baseball experts draft, and we're here to tell you some tips and tricks to get yourself ready and have some fun with the MLB season. We're joined by DJ Short, Senior Manager of Fantasy Content from RotoWorld and NBC, Lauren Jump, Brand Manager of RotoWire, and Robbie Reck from HealthyLineups, the founder. Welcome to the podcast. DJ, tell us about your draft.
So one thing I noticed right away is just this trend, right, of 3 pitchers going in the top 10. So I was picking 9th. Tarek School went right before my pick. I was just hoping he'd fall into my lap. Of course, that didn't work out, so I went with Julio Rodriguez. I was really reluctant to go with Garrett Crochet, but he went next. So there you go, 3 pitchers in the top 10. I can't remember the last time we've seen that. It's been a little while, right? But obviously, Skeens and Skubal, 2 of the most powerful pitchers in the game, can really lead your fantasy staff, so I can understand that. Seeing Crochet in the top 10, that stuck out to me for sure.
Lauren?
Yeah, I was pick 4. I was hoping to get Bobby Witt just to get some steals out of the way and some speed, but Juan Soto came to me. I think it's 4 or 5 outfielders, right? So, still nice to get that out of the way. And then I went for a second baseman early. I got Ketel Marte in the next round. There's not a lot of great ones this year, and I didn't want to have to worry about that. Mason Miller got a little early on the reliever side, and I might need to trade for some starting pitching, or maybe we'll stream some guys. We'll see.
Robbie, how about you? What are you feeling? What's your takeaways from your draft?
Yeah, so I was the one responsible for taking Garrett Crochet in the 10th spot. And for my strategy, I wanted to come out of the first 2 rounds being at the turn or near the turn with an elite bat, hopefully power bat. I didn't get a power bat, but an elite bat and an elite power arm coming out of the first 2 rounds. So I was balanced, and it would give me optionality going into the middle rounds and then the late rounds.
Yeah, that's a smart strategy. In football, I normally like to get a receiver and running back in the first 2, just so you can kind of play around after that. But all right, so why don't you tell us a little bit about some players that you are targeting this year outside of this draft? Yeah,
so I've done tons of fantasy simulations. I am probably a little bit counter to what a lot of people, how they build their drafts. I build it from the back up. So I start at who is going to be available at the end of the draft. Where is there really, really deep value that I can count on being available late in the draft? And then I find out who is then, what are the positions that are really, really thin in terms of guys that I want in my lineup. So this year, like most years, it's catchers, shortstops, elite arms like the Tarek Skubals and the Paul Skeens. So for me, I targeted one guy late that I loved. That'd be Chandler Simpson. Picking up steals late in the draft. No draft capital needed to spend on that. So elite speed there. And then guys that I'm avoiding that I was not going to draft regardless of whether they fell to me or not. Unfortunately, Cal Raleigh is amazing for headlines, but that power, it leaks the average, and it's hard to make up for taking such a big hit on average where you've got to chase that the rest of the draft, and I just didn't want to put myself in that position.
I was in a similar position with third base, which dropped off pretty sharply, so I ended up with Eugenio Suarez. So you're going to get the power. It's kind of a similar profile, right? But you also go into taking a player like that knowing you're going to have to balance your batting average in some way. So while the power is enticing, it can pull you down a little bit if you're not being careful with the rest of your roster construction.
Yeah. So how about you? Any players that you're really targeting this season?
So for me, I did manage to grab 2 I was really interested in. Dalen Lyle with the Nationals. So small sample last year, had a ton of extra base hits, had double-digit triples. He's going to have an everyday spot in that Nationals lineup. Hit for average, get on base. So he's a big sleeper for me. Also, Luis Robert Jr. with the Mets now. I'm interested to see how motivated he can be playing for a contender. Having Juan Soto in his ear, I think that could be a big plus. The speed is there. We know that. He has massive potential. We've seen him hit for power in the past. I think this could be a year that he breaks through.
Yeah. How about some players you're avoiding?
So Andrew Abbott is one that he fascinates me. Like, he manages to overperform his peripherals in a very hitter-friendly ballpark. It's just not one I'm going to chase. I'll probably be wrong again because he just continues to prove me wrong, but he's just one I can't really stomach drafting. The other's Josh Hader with the Astros. Coming off the shoulder injury last year, I think he's just a really poor bet. There's already some whispers in training camp that he's moving along a little bit slowly, so I think Brian Abreu, who's second in line there with the Astros, might be a good value pick.
Yeah, I was hoping to actually draft him, but
Same.
Was that you?
No, I didn't
okay.
get him.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he went a little earlier than I was expecting, but everyone's on top of their game here, so not that surprising. Yes. Well, we have a late round question then, don't we? And
Are we going to do players to avoid?
yeah, well, we got a few.
Yeah.
Anyone else you guys want to add?
Robbie, any players you're avoiding? Did you give them to us? You didn't
Yeah, I went with, so the first one that I said was Cal Raleigh. The other one that I would probably take a lot of flack for would be Aaron Judge, right? It's the same. It's the same thing. Like, he's not going to get you stolen bases, right? He's not contributing in a rotisserie format. You're gonna, like, there are so many players that are available early that they cover all 5 of the batting categories, and I just feel so much more comfortable building a base with someone who's going to cover everything with a strong floor, and then maybe they have some upside versus have elite home runs and then leak value on stolen bases.
This was the case with Juan Soto for a while, just an elite hitter, has the power, but never really ran. Last year he did. So be interesting to see if that continues this year as well.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
So a player that can make or break your league, probably have to ask yourself this question going in is, are you willing to take Garrett Cole, and where should you be drafting Garrett Cole? Cy Young talent for the Yankees, injured all of last year, supposedly doing well with a rehab. DJ and Robbie, how are you handling Garrett Cole?
I was watching him very closely right when he went off the board. And I think that was what round?
I took him in the 17th.
Okay. So that sounds like the sweet spot. And I also feel as we learn more as spring training rolls on here, that ADP is going to rise. As people realize, like, hey, he might be back in May. And that all you have to do is just get through April, stash him on your IL. Like, that's great. I mean, 17th round looks like a steal already.
How do you handle injured players in general, Robbie, if they're not healthy going into the season? Are you some people just avoid them completely? Yeah. Some people like the value. How do you do it, and how would you counsel people out there to handle it?
So I think structurally, there's taking one step back from that. You've got to decide. You have to realize, am I in an experts draft or am I in a more casual draft, right? Yeah. So that's going to change how the people you're competing against are going to value those injured players, right? So in the draft that we're doing, experts typically undervalue injured players, and they fall like they've done in our league. So for our league, I have Garrett Cole rated at between picks 250 and 300, right? And with our draft, we only have 350 players being drafted, right? So but if I look at just kind of overall consensus, he's a top 100 player, right? So you just have to, like, in my opinion, you got to look at who are you going up against, what are their tendencies, and you have to take that into account. Because, like, if you look at someone as a top 100 or a top 300 player, those are completely different outcomes.
One thing I'd add to that is it also is a matter of how many IL spots wherever you're playing is. Like, in the draft we just had, it's unlimited IL spots, but you can't pick an injured player up off waivers. So I kind of like taking an injured player during my draft because it's almost like you're getting a free roster spot.
Yeah, for sure.
From the jump.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Sometimes it makes sense to do that, and then maybe there's a player who's hot in spring training, you can pick them up and see where that goes. But, like, if you only have 2 IL spots, chances are by the end of April you're gonna need those spots. So it can be a balance between your motivations for sure.
Yeah, and I got Garrett Cole in an auction league, just waited so patiently. I was hoping no one would remember that he existed. Sure enough, when everyone gets down to $1, that's how much I got him for. So I was this is great value. I hope this works out, but we will see.
2 other pitchers coming back from injury this year. Joe Musgrove, who I did pick up in the draft, I like a lot. No restrictions going into spring training. Kyle Bradish, who came back last year with the Orioles. This will be his first full year back from Tommy John surgery. 2 pitchers who could maybe they're not being drafted as aces, but they can give you that kind of potential. So I think their value plays for sure.
Yeah, I had Bradish on my radar as well, and you got him right one pick before me. So I think like when people know what they're doing, you'll see, the chalk lineup. Everyone's draft, like it might look like a reach to some people, but it makes sense to an overall strategy. And I like the old adage of go get your guys. Like that is, if you believe in a player, you might take some flack during the draft, but when you win the championship because that player hits the projections that you're expecting them to hit, now you've got the bragging rights and you can stick it in people's faces.
Right. I feel like sometimes the first couple of rounds are actually the easiest part of the draft, and then it's kind of the choose your own adventure. So
yeah, the middle is definitely the hardest part, but where you can find the most value and success, honestly.
Exactly.
Well, let's tell people how they could follow you and get more baseball secrets and tips. DJ, Lauren, and Robbie, how do people follow you and get their baseball?
Yeah, so I'm at DJ Short on X. I'm also over at Blue Sky. I don't know what you even tell people to find over there, but I'm DJ Short. You can find me, and also go to NBCSports.com/fantasy. We have all of our preseason baseball content up there right now. Lots more we're adding every day, so go check it out.
Yeah, well, RotoWire has a great fantasy baseball app and also draft assistant for everyone to check out. So rotowire.com, go check it out there.
All right, and Healthy Lineups. To be honest, I do have a TikTok account now, so it's at Healthy Lineups.
Nice.
But where I've got over 5,000 followers on LinkedIn. As a founder, I've coming out of the business community. This is my first foray in the fantasy sports app arena. But if you're interested in starting a sports app, I can't recommend ChatGPT and Cursor more than anything.
Well, wish you all luck this year. Everybody
good
out
luck,
there,
guys.
have a great fantasy baseball season. Thanks for another episode, Fantasy Sports and Gaming Spotlight.